Before we begin, take a breath. Feel the air moving in and out. You are not your thoughts, not your past, not even the story that brought you here. If this moment feels quiet, that is not emptiness, it is space. And in that space, you begin to wake up. If you wish to explore this depth of awareness, to live from stillness rather than from noise, subscribe, and let us journey into the now together. There is a silence that exists not as an absence of sound, but as a presence of fullness. It is the space between your thoughts, the gentle hum of existence that was here before you had a name, and that will remain, vast and untroubled, long after the name has faded. You can feel it even now, as you listen to these words. It is the canvas upon which the sound is painted. It is the awareness that is reading these sentences, the consciousness that gives them meaning. And this awareness, this is who you are. Not the content of your life, but the context in which it all unfolds. Most people live their entire lives within the content, lost in the story, completely identified with the narrator, never realizing that the narrator is merely a character, a collection of memories and conditioned responses, a fleeting echo in the vast cathedral of being. That identification is the root of all suffering. It is a profound, pervasive sense of lack, a feeling of being a separate fragment adrift in a universe that is often threatening, always demanding. You feel it as a low-level anxiety, a background static of unease, a sense that something is missing, that you are not quite whole, not quite complete. You may spend your entire life trying to answer that feeling, seeking wholeness in achievements, in possessions, in relationships, in the approval of others. You may build an entire identity around your successes and your failures, your strengths and your wounds. You may believe, with every fiber of your being, that you are this person with this history, these problems, these dreams. And so you live in a state of perpetual becoming, always reaching for a future moment when you will finally be happy, finally be at peace, finally be enough. But that future never arrives. It is a horizon that recedes as you approach. The satisfaction you feel upon attaining a desired object or state is always fleeting, and soon the underlying unease returns, and the search begins again. This is the hidden suffering of the spiritually awake, for even when you have glimpsed the truth, the old habits of mind are deep and tenacious. The pull of the story is strong. It feels familiar, it feels safe, even in its misery. To let it go can feel like dying, and in a way it is. It is the death of the false self, the ego. And the ego will fight for its life with every weapon at its disposal, with doubt, with fear, with a clever voice that says, "This is just another thought, another concept. It is not real." And that voice is partially right. The words pointing to the truth are not the truth itself, but the feeling, the knowing, the simple, undeniable fact of your own presence that is real. That is what remains when the story falls silent. So let us not fight the story. Let us simply look at it with a gentle, curious attention. See how the mind is almost always occupied with something. It is replaying a conversation from yesterday, worrying about a problem tomorrow, judging the present moment against an ideal, or lost in a daydream of a different life. It is rarely, if ever, simply here. It avoids the present moment because the present moment, in its stunning simplicity, offers nothing for the ego to feed upon. The ego needs time, past and future, to sustain itself. It thrives on regret and resentment, which are its relationship with the past. It thrives on anxiety and expectation, which are its relationship with the future. But the now, the eternal present, is too simple, too immediate, too empty. It does not provide the drama, the conflict, the sense of a self that is moving, striving, achieving, or failing. So the mind, like a restless child, creates its own dramas. It takes a simple sensation, like a slight tension in the shoulder, and weaves a story around it. A story about stress, about overwork, about not being appreciated. It takes a neutral event and interprets it as a personal affront. It takes a moment of silence and fills it with noise. And you, the awareness in which all this is happening, get pulled into the movie. You start to believe you are the character on the screen, fighting its battles, suffering its pains. But have you ever noticed that there is also a part of you that is watching the movie? A quiet, observant presence that notices the tension, that hears the complaining thoughts, that feels the surge of emotion? This watcher is not judging, not trying to change anything. It is simply aware. It is the light of consciousness itself. You can sense it now. Feel the aliveness in your hands. You do not have to think about your hands to know they are there. There is a direct, felt sense of aliveness, of presence. That is a glimpse of the watcher. That is you prior to all thought. The thought may say, "I am tired," but the awareness simply notices the sensation of fatigue. The thought may say, I am afraid, but the awareness simply feels the energy of fear moving through the body. There is a profound difference between saying, I am angry, and realizing there is anger. The first statement identifies you with the temporary emotional energy. The second statement allows you to be the space for it. This is the beginning of freedom. This space is not something you need to create. You cannot create it, for it is what you are. It is already here, closer than your next breath. It is the silence out of which these words arise, and into which they will return. To notice it, you need only to shift your attention from the content of your experience to the context. From the things that are happening to the space in which they are happening. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. Feel the air touching your skin. Listen to the subtle sounds in the room, not as interruptions to the silence, but as expressions of it. There is no need to change anything. No need to become more spiritual, more peaceful, more enlightened. All such striving is just more activity of the ego, trying to improve itself, to become a better, shinier object. The peace you are seeking is not an object to be acquired. It is the very nature of the subject, of you, the awareness. It is like the ocean searching for water. It is already what it seeks. So the path is not one of addition, but of subtraction. It is a letting go. It is a gentle, but firm, refusal to get drawn into the next thought, the next drama. It is a deepening surrender into the isness of this moment, exactly as it is. Even if this moment contains discomfort, or pain, or sadness. You do not need to love the pain, but can you allow it to be? Can you stop resisting it? Can you feel the raw sensation without the story about it? Without the label my pain, or this should not be happening? The resistance to what is what causes most of the suffering. The pain itself may be a simple physical sensation, but the resistance to it creates a tight knot of mental and emotional anguish around it. When you stop resisting, when you allow the sensation to be fully present, something miraculous happens. The separation between you and the sensation dissolves. You are no longer a victim suffering a painful sensation. You become the spacious awareness that contains it. The sensation may still be there, but it has lost its power to define your reality. It is just another cloud passing through the vast sky of your being. This surrender is not an act of weakness, but the ultimate intelligence. It is the recognition that fighting with reality is a battle you will always lose, for reality is what it is. When you argue with what is, you are arguing with the entire universe, and you will always be outmatched. Surrender is aligning yourself with the power of life itself. It is saying yes to the present moment, not necessarily to the situation, but to the reality of the now. From that deep acceptance, a different kind of energy becomes available. It is no longer the tense, contracted energy of resistance, but a calm, clear, intelligent energy that can respond to the situation appropriately. Action arising from stillness is infinitely more powerful than reaction arising from turmoil. This is how you begin to live in the world without being of the world. You participate in life, you do what needs to be done, but you are no longer seeking yourself in the outcomes. Your sense of self is rooted in the formless, timeless presence that you are, and so the changing conditions of the world, the gains and losses, the praise and blame, can no longer shake you at your core. You become like the depths of the ocean, undisturbed by the storms that rage on the surface. And what of the ego in all this? It does not disappear in a flash of light. It withers from lack of attention. Every time you choose presence over identification, you are withdrawing the energy that sustains it. It may protest loudly. It may create a crisis, a wave of fear, a sense of impending doom. It will tell you that you are disappearing, that you are becoming nothing. And it is right. You are becoming nothing. You are returning to your essential nature, which is consciousness itself, prior to all form. This nothing is not a void of absence, but a fullness beyond comprehension. It is the source of all life, all joy, all creativity. The joy that you used to seek in external things was always a faint reflection of this inherent joy of being. When you are present, you do not need to seek joy. It arises naturally from within, like a spring of fresh water from the earth. It is the joy of being alive, of sensing, of breathing. It is uncontaminated by time. It is the simple, profound happiness of a flower opening to the sun, or a bird singing at dawn. It asks for nothing. It is complete in itself. So now, as we rest in this shared silence, feel the aliveness that permeates your entire body. It is a single, unified field of energy and intelligence. The mind may want to label it, to break it down into parts, a hand, a foot, a heartbeat, but the direct, felt experience is one of wholeness. You are that wholeness. The sense of being a separate entity inside a body is an illusion created by thought. The body is not something you have. It is a manifestation of the consciousness that you are. It is a localized expression of the universal life force. The air you breathe is the universe breathing you. The light you see by is the universe perceiving itself. There is no separate you that is doing any of this. There is only one life, one consciousness, appearing in the infinite diversity of forms. Your personal story is just one tiny, fleeting wave on the surface of this vast ocean. It has its beauty, its uniqueness, but it is not who you are. Who you are is the ocean. When you realize this, not as an intellectual concept, but as a living reality, all loneliness, all sense of separation, dissolves. You see yourself in everything and everything in yourself. A tree is no longer just a tree out there. It is an expression of the same life that animates you. Another person is no longer a stranger. They are you in a different form. This is not a metaphor. It is a direct, perceptual shift. The world does not become less real. It becomes more real, more vivid, more sacred. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. A cup of tea becomes a ceremony. A walk in the park becomes a meditation. Every moment becomes an opportunity to meet the timeless in the world of time. This is the invitation of the now. It is not an invitation to a special state, but to the reality of what already is. It is always here, waiting for you to notice. You do not have to go anywhere or do anything to find it. In fact, any effort to find it will take you away from it. You need only to stop, to pause, and to feel the reality of your own being. The feeling of I am. Before the I am this or I am that. Just the simple, naked, undeniable sense of existence. That is the door. That is the portal to your true home. And you can step through it at any moment. This very breath is that doorway. This very sensation is that gateway. There is no past to redeem, no future to attain. Everything is contained in this eternal present. All the power, all the peace, all the love that you have ever sought is hidden in the humble simplicity of this moment. Can you let go of the story just for now? Can you lay down the burden of your personal history just for this single breath? There is nothing you need to protect, nothing you need to become. You are already that which you seek. The search itself is what veils it. So stop searching and simply be. Be the awareness that you are. Let the sound of these words dissolve into the silence from which they came. Let the body relax into the chair. Let the mind rest, like a still lake reflecting the sky. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to be. Only this. Only now. And now, the words fade, but the silence remains. If you felt the stillness within this message, stay. Subscribe, not to follow, but to remember, again and again, that presence is always here, waiting beneath every thought. The true teaching is not in the words you just heard, but in the space between them.